read some comments from some of the folks back in the Midwest. I would like to say that even myself, on the way down here yesterday, I kept thinking, when you see Brother Allen, I think, oh no, I'm not going to see him. I'm going to be there. But he was a very, very special friend in our life, and both my wife and I. And they came there in 1974, Fort Smith, and there for 9 years, and there's a lot of things that we learned in those 9 years while he was there. The first one I'm going to read is from Larry Montgomery, which he shared this morning. He said, what I remember about my friend Alan, he loved the Lord, life, church, people, laughing. Alan enjoyed life, good food, and oatmeal. He did. Every morning. He enjoyed flying his plane over the Olympics, landing on the beach to dig razor clamps, and flying back home to go to work. He took pleasure in hiking, trout fishing in the Olympics, and when in the Midwest, greatly appreciated growing river. Alan loved the cabin at Lake Dawn, and he was a giver, and he gave of himself. Alan was a very true friend. The next one's from Kirby Thompson. It was great working with Brother Allen in the Midwest as a neighboring pastor, helping out in the Midwest camp, trading locations for Sunday, sharing special meeting duties, and beyond. One special memory was working in Murfreesboro, Illinois at the campground preparing for Midwest camp. We had awakened for breakfast and other morning duties, and Brother Allen had disappeared. I made my way over to Murfreesboro Church and quietly walked into the entrance, and Brother Allen was praying alone. Well, actually, he wasn't alone. The power of God had come in as he prayed by himself before working on the campgrounds. Now I am wondering who is going to cover part of the hedge that he so faithfully, carefully, prayerfully, and seriously tended. Thank you. The next one is from Antonia Slacker. When I first came to this country, I lived on university campus at the University of Kansas, which was at least an hour away from Kansas City, church where Brother Allen was pastoring at the time. And because she didn't have a car, did not know how to drive at the time, Brother Allen would pick me up so that I could be in church. Many times he would do this, even on a morning when he had to teach Sunday school and preach. I was so touched by his dedication and at least 2 hours every Sunday to come and help me to get to church. When my friend O'Day started coming to church with me, he would come to both of us, and sometimes he and Sister Connie would take us back to school. This act of love, concern for other people's souls by Brother Allen made such an indelible impact on me to the extent that when my husband became a pastor and we encountered people who wanted to be in the church but did not have any means to get to church, Charles and I would do anything in our power to get them there. That was Brother Allen's legacy for us. He would do anything to give people the opportunity to be in church, and he never played with church. When I finally had the money to buy my first car, Brother Allen was on the road with me looking for a good car for me because of his experience with cars. He took the time to render any help members of his congregation needed for Christ safe, and he did it with joy. Brother Allen had a deep-seated love to reach souls for Christ. When Brother Allen found out that Charles and I were engaged to be married, he took Charles to church alone and watched the video of what our wives wish their husband knew about women. He wanted to be sure that Charles had a successful marriage. That meant a lot to me. Brother Charles and I bought the book that this video was based on, and we shared newly wed, newly married men that are close to us. Brother Allen was thoughtful of others, and he wanted everyone close to him to see whatever they need to achieve. We are so grateful to God that Brother Alan was in our lives. This one's from Charles Slacker. I'm always so proud to say that Brother Alan was my first pastor, and he truly was a father figure to me, apart from seeing me through an initial Christian experiences and praying with me for my baptism, study as a worker and Sunday school teacher. He counseled me when I had found my bride. He helped me buy my first car, worked on it for me, trying to teach me how to repair it myself. Once when my car needed a part, he went with me into a parts store at 11 p.m. Saturday night so we would buy anything on Sunday. He lived an uncompromised life before me, and what faithfulness I might have to the gospel I owe him. No small part to his excellent example. He showed me what it was to be a faithful Christian, husband, pastor, mentor. I pray I can honor him and contribute to the kind of legacy he deserves. Of course, the next one is from, well, my wife actually wrote it, but she probably wrote some of the things that there's a lot of stories that we can tell her this morning, but we don't have time to tell all of them. But Brother Alan was, and Sister Connie, they were very special people to us. When thinking of things to say about Brother Alan, we feel he was such an inspiration to us in our younger days as new converts. We can never put into words what an impact his and Sister Connie's Christian life was on us. Brother Alan became our pastor just a few months after we were saved. So he was a big part of our beginning in the gospel. What a wonderful man of God and true Christian example he was to us and our family. We lived over an hour away from the church, and often he and Connie would make the long trip to visit us, keeping us encouraged. Somehow it seemed that when they arrived, that Brother Alan would always be climbing on the back seat. He had to have a nap before on the way down to our house. So Sister Connie wound up driving down most of the time. Now we wonder if his life arrest had to do with many hours he spent in prayer. The love of God shined brightly through the love and compassion he showed us, even though we know he and Sister Connie had their challenges too, we would never know it. He was very serious about the gospel, and he spent hours around the altar praying with us, encouraging us to seek our deeper experiences and to draw closer to God. We can't think of Brother Alan without also thinking of sourdough pancakes. I see quite a few of you raised your hand. We had that too. He loved making them every time we would visit. He also had a prankster side, all in fun, of course. And one stands out, I remember when he invited us for a visit while he was living in St. Louis, and we arrived sooner than he expected, and caught him in the process of short-seating our bed every rest of the time. He said, "You got here too early." Well, I don't know if any of you, when you would eat at his house, their house, and he asked if you wanted more orange juice or more milk, he always run your glass over full and it run out on the table. That's enough. Later, after he and Sister Dixie married, we had the privilege to visit them in Minneapolis, where once we enjoyed sourdough pancakes and wonderful Christian fellowships. But of all the treasure memories we have, we can both say the ones we most treasure are the wonderful prayer meetings we had with Brother Alan's encouragement for us. Truly, his life overflowed with the love of God. The next one is from Karen's story. When I was 16 years old, I rode in a car to the Portland camp meeting from Fort Smith. with Brother Alan and Sister Connie, 3 other teenage girls. One of the things I remember was the eating along the way. Brother Alan didn't choose fast food places like I was used to, but he and Connie would choose little family restaurants along the way in small towns. Once, when we entered one restaurant, they led us to a table in the back with one of the girls saying as we walked, man, we were quite the center of attention for the locals. One of the things that happened was that the trunk of the car was so full, Brother Alan didn't know if he could close it again. So we wore the same clothes the whole journey. 5 days. When we arrived at the Matthews cabin in Port Angeles to stay for a few days before Portland camp, the ladies were so glad to change clothes. The thing I still remember to this day was that the next morning, Brother Alan got up to work around the cabin and put on those same clothes he had been wearing for 5 days. It was quite interesting. One of the teenagers stayed in Portland, so we had room to travel home, bringing Brother Alan's dog, young dog, with us. What an experience. Wonderful that trip was. I'm so thankful for a pastor and his wife who cared enough to make sure some teenage girls were able to experience Portland camp. Brother Alan was a wonderful pastor and later a real friend to me. Many times I would call him and would impart some of his wisdom to me. I will always treasure memories of him and Connie and look forward to seeing them again over on the streets of gold. I'm sure his reward in heaven will be great. Next one, Kent Thompson. I've been so blessed to be Brother Alan's pastor for a few short years. Even though he'd been a pastor for many years, he made me feel better in that I was coming to try to fill his shoes and fill the position that he was retiring from. I appreciate his wisdom and insight. His heart's desire was to please the Lord and do what he could in the work of the Lord. He counted it a privilege to be in church, even though it would take much effort to get there. It was special to me when he introduced me to others and say, "This is my pastor." I'm thankful for the time spent with Brother Alan and cherish the memories with love and prayers. Lonnie Thompson. Brother Alan was an encourager. He never let obstacles get in the way of helping others whenever he could. He took the time to listen when you talked to him, even in the later years when he was sick. He did his best to be in church, and when he was too weak or sick, he would support us through prayer. He did what he could. We all loved him. He was a wonderful, godly example of real love. He would make us smile and laugh over the simplest of things. He appreciated life and those around him. There is a saying that fits him so well that goes like this: "Thank you for the love you never failed to offer, the help you never failed to give, and the laughter you never ceased to share. We love you and always will with love and prayers." And the next one is from Abugulas from Minneapolis. It says, "Our family will forever be grateful to God for sending Brother Alan Matthew our way to stand in the gap and help us since we migrated from Nigeria. He didn't only give us hand-on training on fixing our car, but he did the oil change for us. His determination, resilience to be at every church meeting, even at the face of a minus 40-degree below zero, is still an immeasurable encouragement. His favorite song, "Amazing Grace," and "I'll Fly Away," will always be on our mind. Rest in peace, perfect peace in the bosom of your Lord. And And I'd like to tell just one more. The last time that we were here in Medford, he came and he sat back there about where Brother Jerry is now. And I went back after the meeting to talk to him, and I got down on my knee and talked to him. And he said, you know, I polished my shoes this morning because I heard you was going to be here. Because he said, you've always got real shiny shoes. So he said, I polished them really good so they didn't look like yours. We loved him very much, and he was a very